About how I see everybody in the community uh, anticipating, expecting this sudden resurgence of Bitcoin, primarily and almost exclusively because that is what we have seen in the past. They are using the past to predict the future. And while that sometimes works, there are other situations where uh, the game has changed. Past trajectories are not always the best predictor for what's coming next. And so what I hear most commentators saying is that we have seen Bitcoin dominance typically decline and then come back, decline and then come back, decline and then come back. And what we're expecting now is that because over the past month or so, Bitcoin has fallen to near historic lows in dominance relative to other coins. It's gone from a peak of around 45, 46% dominance down to actually it was up to 60-ish a little earlier, 63%, a peak of 67% going all the way back to December 8th. We have seen that come down precipitously very quickly during this altcoin season, during the altcoin rally, to a low of around 32%. And even stretching back to around the 1st of January, virtually all commentators in the space have been telling us repeatedly, over and over again, that there's an impending boom in Bitcoin, that it had slowed down from its peak of around 19,000. It had sort of tapered off, consolidated at around 13, 14, 15,000 as the altcoins had rallied, and we were just expecting. I kept hearing these statements: Wall Street money is coming in, on no evidence. Okay, there was no evidence that this was coming, and I hear all these commentators. I kept asking on what evidence, and there's just this meme running around that hedge funds were starting to invest in this space. Wall Street money would start to hit, wire transfers were being made on January 2nd, and they wouldn't hit until around the end of the first week of January, and that's when we would see the boom. There was an impending, ETF approval by the SEC. All of these things, this expectation that Bitcoin was suddenly going to boom and alts would crash. Now we've seen a little bit of that, but the expectation is that Bitcoin, I hear some people estimating that it's going to suddenly rebound back up to 60%. Now that may happen, but what we're seeing largely is a shift from the first mover advantage to the fast follower advantage. And we are seeing so many new cryptos. We are seeing so many projects that have learned from the limitations of Bitcoin itself, the limitations of other projects, and we have this huge space of competition where only the fittest are going to survive. And I think a key case in point is Ethereum. We see everyone expecting that as alts sell off, money will flow back into Bitcoin. And that is true to a large extent. That has historically been true. We see an altcoin rally, we see money flow back into Bitcoin. Then we start to see Bitcoin rally a little bit, and then as Bitcoin rallies, the alts kind of get slaughtered, and then Bitcoin starts to consolidate and stabilize for a couple of weeks, and then the alts rally, and then again, money gets profits, people start taking profits and selling back into Bitcoin because Bitcoin to this point is still largely the reserve currency of crypto. But it's no longer the exclusive reserve currency of crypto. We are seeing more and more ETH to altcoin pairs, trading pairs propping up on KuCoin, on Binance, on many exchanges. We are seeing Coinbase adding new coins. We are seeing situations where you just ask yourself, if you have a new altcoin that you want to invest in, and you want to quickly get money either from fiat into that coin or from one exchange, from one dominant coin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, etc., into that other coin on the altcoin exchanges, what is the fastest way for you to do that? What is the cheapest way for you to do that? I find myself no longer using Bitcoin as my reserve currency because it takes longer to transfer. It ends up costing, literally 10 times as much as most of the others. Now, Ethereum is now having its own problems in this area as well. But if I want to move funds, quickly transfer value, and move funds fast and cheaply from one exchange, let's say Coinbase, to an altcoin exchange on Bittrex or Binance or KuCoin, the quickest way for me to do that and the cheapest way for me to do that is to either convert whatever I have into Ethereum or into Litecoin, and then transfer it. And so I think what we're seeing is the decline of the dominance of Bitcoin as the sole reserve currency in crypto. And I think the writing is on the wall that an alt, it may not be Ethereum, but Ethereum certainly has the best chance out of any other altcoin. But we are seeing the decline of Bitcoin dominance. And the writing is on the wall that the day is going to come where one of these altcoins, with Ethereum having the highest probability out of any other, is going to overtake Bitcoin as the primary reserve currency. Whether there's going to be a basket of many altcoins that become large competitors to Bitcoin's sole hold as the dominant reserve currency, or whether it's going to be just one in particular like Ethereum, I don't know. Whether this is going to happen in the next 3 months or 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, I don't know exactly. If Lightning Network takes off and becomes very successful, we will certainly see a significant spike and a significant rally in Bitcoin. But Ethereum also has its own. It has Casper testnet.
It has Plasma, it has Sharding, it has Raiden, it has this large bounty program, this large crowdsourcing fund where they are seeking input from the developer community for scaling solutions. So Ethereum also has its own scaling solutions coming. So, the writing is on the wall. We have seen Bitcoin over the past year sort of largely, to a significant extent, stagnate with respect to the size of their network. Their network has grown, but it has not been at a massive clip. It has not been to the degree that we have seen the networks grow for Ethereum. We can see Bitcoin transaction volume here, number of daily transactions. Yes, it has grown from a base of around 250, 300,000 transactions per day 1 year ago, up to a peak of around 400 to 500,000 transactions per day, back down to sort of that starting point from earlier in the year. But that's a relatively in crypto, that's a relatively slow growth rate. Whereas Ethereum's transactions over the past year, we have seen Metcalfe's law applying very, very significantly, and we've seen the growth rate in Ethereum's transactions following this exponential growth rate, this power curve, this parabolic trend upward, and I do expect this to continue its parabolic trend, spiking upward. We can't see, but we are at an inflection point right around here. And this also applies if we look at the active addresses, the number of wallets that are active on the network. Bitcoin has grown over the past year from a base of around 600,000 active addresses at the beginning of the year up to around 800, 900,000 active addresses today. But let's look at Ethereum, going from a base at the beginning of the year of around 24,000 all the way up now to peaking at around 1 million, but down now to 700,000 active addresses on any given day. We're going to see the same thing if we look at the number of Twitter followers, the growth rate in the number of Twitter followers. We see the same thing if we look at the growth rate in the number of subscribers to the Reddit channels for each coin. And so what we're seeing now, and another good thing you can do is look through the top 50 coins on CoinMarketCap, and just, check for yourself. How many of these coins, tokens, are built on top of, out of the top 50 coins, how many of them are built on top of Ethereum? Okay, so many of these coins had ICO'd last year or within the past 2 years, and they're now moving down their roadmaps. Many of them are not making progress in their roadmaps, but some of them are. And what we're going to see in the next year or 2 years is that many of these projects are going to start releasing their products, and they're going to start attracting daily active users to their programs, to their products, to their platforms, and with that, the necessity of Ether and the necessity of gas is going to spike. The use cases for Ethereum, the use cases for Ether are going to spike. So those are just some things to think about. There will be a time, there will be periods where altcoins start to falter, money does flow back into Bitcoin, but I'm not entirely sure that Bitcoin is the sole reserve currency any longer. As altcoins start to falter, I do believe that many in the community have more confidence in Ethereum. They have more confidence in other alternatives, especially platforms like Neo. And when they can, they are going to be selling their altcoin profits, in some cases, back into Ethereum. And we're actually seeing, we're going from almost a monopoly of Bitcoin as their sole reserve currency in the space to potentially a duopoly between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the day is going to come, the writing is on the wall, where another crypto is going to overtake Bitcoin. I don't know if that's in 6 months, I don't know if that's in 1 or 2 years, but it is coming.